It's Wednesday, June 24th, and welcome to the reading of the Record Courier. My name is Pam, and we begin today's reading with the area deaths. Reed I. Walker, age 96, of Newton Falls, took his heavenly flight on Sunday, June 21st. Calling hours will be held at the James Funeral Home in Newton Falls from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturday, June 27th. Funeral services will be held immediately following at 12 p.m. at the funeral home. Reed will be laid to rest at Lutheran Cemetery in Newton Falls. William Michael Allen, also known as Bill, age 51, died suddenly at his home in Kent on Sunday, June 21st. A memorial service will be held at 1 p.m. on Thursday, June 25th at Bisler & Sons Funeral Home and Crematory in Kent. James E. Giulet, 73 years of age, passed away Saturday, June 20th at UH Portage Medical Center in Ravenna. There will be no calling hours. A private funeral and burial service will be held at Park Cemetery in Garrettsville. Glenn M. Marstiller, 62 years of age, passed away Saturday, June 20th at UH Portage Medical Center in Ravenna after a brief illness. No calling hours or services. A family memorial service will be held at a later date. Kenneth Wirtz, known as Ken, 89 years old, of Kent, passed away on Father's Day, June 21st. Private graveside services will be held at Standing Rock Cemetery. A memorial service at the United Methodist Church in Kent will be held in the future. That concludes the Wednesday area death notices. Now let's move on to our first article. License plate fees to rise in Ravenna by Diane Smith. 2 ordinances stalled by the coronavirus pandemic, including one that will raise license plate fees for Ravenna residents, were approved Monday by Ravenna City Council. Council held a special meeting Monday to approve a $5 license plate fee increase, which would take effect next year. Also approved was an update on the city's ban of donation boxes, allowing the city to dispose of the boxes within 60 days instead of the year outlined in the current ordinance. City leaders estimate that the $5 fee would bring an additional $40,000 a year to the city's street fund. Ravenna has not increased its portion of license plate fees since 1997. Public hearings on the ordinances were scheduled in April, but was canceled because in-person meetings had been canceled. Council finally hosted a virtual public hearing on both issues last week, allowing residents to submit comments by phone or email. Council members have said that if the city does not enact the fee hike, Portage County has the ability to raise plate fees and keep the money at the county level. Portage County Engineer Michael Marozzi has previously said he has no plans to do so. However, Council President Andrew Klug has wondered if that might change because coronavirus has forced local governments to slash budgets because of the coronavirus pandemic. Discussions at Monday's meeting was limited to when the fee increase would be effective. Finance Director Brian Huff said the increase would be effective January 2 of 2021. The second ordinance concerns a 2014 ordinance that bans donation boxes in the city. 3 boxes were put up in violation of that ban, and City Engineer Bob Feeney said they have been removed and are in storage. The 2014 code requires the city to contact the owners and keep the boxes for a year, destroying them if they are not claimed. The change would allow the disposal to take place after 2 months. Finney says he plans to hire a local tow truck to drop off 2 of the boxes to Planet Aid's parking lot in Solon because the company has refused to claim the boxes. The other has a non-working phone number on the box and no address. That, he said, will leave the city workers no choice but to empty the box, dispose of the contents, cut it in pieces, and scrap it. Moving on, Portage County Sheriff 911 lines back up. The Portage County Sheriff's Office has restored its phone lines after experiencing a phone service outage. You can now call 911 and the Sheriff's Administration Office at 330-296-5600. 45100. Earlier, calls to 911 were being routed automatically through the Kent City Police Department as the PCSO works with the phone carrier to get the service back up. The Justice Center is located at 8240 Infirmary Road in Ravenna Township. Repairs are in process. There was also an outage at the PCSO on Sunday. This next article is titled "The Curtain Rises at Kent Cinemas" by Bob Gagins. Kent Cinemas, owned by Movie Scoop, is open for business following the theater's COVID-19 shutdown. According to Movie Scoop spokesperson Liz Harper, the theater was among several to reopen Friday to limited showings. "From my vantage point, it's really different," she said of post-COVID-19 operations. "Before, we would play movies starting at 11 a.m. until our last showing at about 9 p.m. At Kent, we would play midnight movies because the college kids liked them. This week, movies start around 3 p.m. and final showings begin between 7 and 8 p.m. The only exceptions this week are showings of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which have 10 a.m. showings on Wednesday and Thursday. Since we're showing classic movies, admission is $5 for all show times through Thursday," says Harper, adding the Wednesday and Thursday morning Summer Kids Series movies are $1 each. Harper said the company also is enacting a variety of social distancing practices, the first of which deals with the timing of the movies. She explained there won't be windows of time when multiple movies are starting or ending concurrently, which will prevent too many people from being crowded into the lobby at any given time. Within each auditorium, seating maxes out at 50% of normal capacity, and there must be distances between groups, she added. Several years ago, Kent Cinemas installed luxury seats in 7 of its 12 movie auditoriums, according to Shannon Heisel, the general manager at the Kent Theater. In the luxury auditoriums, there must be 2 seats between groups side to side, and in the regular auditoriums, there must be 3 seats between groups side to side, according to Harper. In the regular auditoriums, every other row is closed as well, but the luxury seats provide enough leg room that the moviegoers' heads are well over 6 feet apart, explained Heisel. "Our point-of-sale system is automatically doing it for us in the luxury seats," she said. "It forces 2 seats between every transaction." Heisel said there weren't a lot of guests Friday and Saturday. "It was slow to start," she said. "I don't truly think people realize we're open. With the weather, we definitely picked up on Father's Day. We had a lot of people who were super grateful. It was a lot of regulars over the weekend, people who come in a couple times a week or a couple times a month." Openings of the company's theaters were dependent on Movie Scoop's ability to meet local COVID-19 social distancing and sanitary rules. At Kent Cinemas, all staff will wear face coverings. Employees are screened each day before entering the theater. Hand sanitizer stations are scattered throughout the theater. The theater has plexiglass barriers and chip readers for low-contact transactions, and regular cleaning is more frequent, according to a news release from Movie Scoop. Harper said there were a variety of small changes to the concessions operation as well, including that employees won't refill used popcorn buckets. Now patrons just have to show staff their refill bucket to get a new bucket. Movie Scoop also cited medical experts stating movie theaters are relatively safe indoor entertainment options compared with a bar, for example. Harper said Movie Scoop was financially healthy going into the COVID-19 shutdown and should be okay coming out as well. "I think the demise of movie theaters is overrated," said Harper. "We had our best year ever in 2019. This next article, titled "Portage Industries Buys the Building at Auction" by Diane Smith. Portage Industries will continue to provide jobs to people with developmental disabilities now that the agency was the lone bidder for the building it has used for decades. Phil Miller, CEO of Portage Industries, submitted the winning $500,000 bid, which was the minimum bid for the building at 7008 Route 88. The auction took place on the steps of the Portage County Courthouse last week. Miller said the move will eventually allow the agency to upgrade the building and consolidate all services into one structure. The Portage County Auditor has estimated the value of the building and the 10.5-acre lot it sits on at $3 million. The Portage Industry Building was built in 1980, and additions were made in 1987 and 2004. Miller has worked with developmentally disabled people in Portage County for about 35 years, and until recently was an employee of the DD Board. But in 2015, a federal mandate from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services required local boards to privatize sheltered workshops. A three-phase transition plan was completed in 2018, and Portage Industries, Inc. became a private nonprofit. Auctioning the building off was the last step in that privatization process. Under normal circumstances, Portage Industry employs 150 people, 90 of them at Route 88 facility and another 60 at a rented warehouse at the former Evenflow building on North Freedom Street. Miller said most of the individuals served at Portage Industry are there because work is part of their plan of services. In addition to those employed at the workshop, the staff of Portage Industries also works with individuals employed in the community. Miller acknowledged that now that services are privatized, the Board of Developmental Disabilities offers them a choice of where to work and receive services. But now that Portage Industries officially owns the building, he said, the company is now in a position to encourage people to choose us for services. It's a very exciting time, he said. We honor people's wishes, but now we want to be in a position where people choose us. Miller said one strength Portage Industry offers is that people have an opportunity to work and earn a paycheck. Portage Industries was able to provide work throughout the pandemic, and an undetermined number of people have returned to their jobs in recent weeks. However, hours are limited because only a small number of people can occupy each room at the facility under guidelines from the Ohio Department of Health. Many people, he said, hear about Portage Industries from word of mouth when satisfied employees tell their friends how much they like working there. Portage Industries, he noted, also is equipped to provide services to people with significant disabilities. Job coaches from the agency's Follow Along program also help mentor and train individuals who work in the community and check in on those people once the initial training is over. The building is in need of HVAC improvements as well as roof repairs. Now that the building is under private ownership, Miller says he hopes to get started on those upgrades soon. Moving on to our next article. Kent aims to place renewal levy on the fall ballot, by Caitlin McGarvey. The City of Kent has taken its first step towards placing a renewal levy that benefits the West Side Fire Station on the fall ballot. A resolution of necessity for the item was approved by Kent City Council during a mid-June meeting. According to the language of the ordinance, the resolution is regarding the renewal of an existing 0.73 mill tax levy. Its purpose is to provide sufficient funds for the current expenses associated with maintaining and operating the city's West Side Fire Station. The 5-year levy will expire in the 2020 tax year, 2021 collection year. According to a memo from Kent Director of Budget and Finance, Rhonda Hall, the levy was initially passed in 2005 for the 2019 tax year, 2020 collection year. The levy will provide $256,250 that directly funds a significant portion of the West Side Fire Station's operating expenses. If renewed, the 0.73 mil current expense levy is continued to provide $256,250 in revenue, beginning with the 2021 tax year, the 2022 collection year. The cost to a homeowner of a $100,000 property at fair market value would be slightly lower than previous years, approximately $21 per year, according to the memo. City Manager Dave Ruler introduced the item to Council in early June. The levy is just up for renewal and will not change in any capacity, he pointed out. He called it critically important to sustain services in the West Side Fire Station. We're not looking to change anything on anybody, Ruler told council. We'd be grateful if they would just pass the renewal. According to Hall, following the adoption of the resolution is necessary. A certified copy of the resolution was delivered to the Office of Portage County Auditor Janet Esposito. Upon receipt of the resolution, Esposito certified to the city both the city's current tax valuation and the dollar amount that would be raised by the proposed renewal levy. Next, the city account will prepare a resolution to proceed for council to consider at its July 15th meeting. Necessary documents must be filed with the Portage County Board of Elections by August 5th in order to have the item on the November 3rd ballot. This article is titled Vandals Leave Kent Schools Undeterred by Krista S. Cano. The vandalism of Kent Roosevelt High School's Black Lives Matters sign facing Route 43 has made the district more dedicated to its soon-to-be formed Equity and Inclusion Task Force. Our plans are in place. We're excited, and we're going to continue to move forward with those. This won't affect us, and if anything, it'll make us stronger, Roosevelt Principal Dennis Love said on Monday. On Sunday morning, Love took down the sign after someone used black spray paint to cover up the words Black Lives Matter. The school's security cameras do not extend to the area where the sign was. School officials met with Kent Police on Monday morning to file a report, and Love says that police were extremely supportive of the filing. There are currently no suspects. Our hearts hurt, but we have faith that actions like this will only unite the Roosevelt learning community, Love tweeted on Sunday. The sign has been up less than a week, and they are definitely considering replacing the sign, Superintendent George Joseph said. Several people and Kent Popcorn Shop Popped responded on Twitter with offers to help replace it, and one Roosevelt student wrote, "We all have to band together to fight for what's right. Never give up. I know things like this is discouraging, but never ever stop fighting for what's right." The sign was erected after Love sent out a letter to the Roosevelt community on June 11th in which he explicitly stated Black Lives Matter, discussed past diversity initiatives, and provided anti-racism and inclusion resources. To write the letter, Love spoke with Joseph, Assistant Superintendent Tom Larkin, and members of the Roosevelt staff who have worked in areas of equity, inclusion, and diversity. It was important for our Kent learning community to understand where we're coming from and what was important to us. We felt it was the right thing to do, Love said. His letter also announced new anti-racism training and the creation of an Equity and Inclusion Task Force composed of community members, staff, students, and administrators. Joseph said that the task force's work would extend to the elementary and middle schools as well. The task force will focus on improving the school to better meet the needs of our diverse community learners by collecting data and evidence, creating goals and action plans, and overseeing diversity initiatives, including student groups, programs, and curriculum. The high school started discussing the task force last February, but then the pandemic hit and the focus was on a lot of other things. Suddenly it was graduation, and I was so blessed to be at the Midway with our seniors enjoying a nice night. But all throughout the country there were protests, and I felt like it was important that our building make a statement to all students that Black lives do matter, Love said. District representatives are now meeting virtually to discuss who will be on the task force, what data should be analyzed, and how task force members should be trained. Dr. Amoaba Gooden, Kent State University Interim Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, suggests the creation of the task force after she was invited to Roosevelt by teacher Nikki Marchman-Boykin for a discussion on anti-racism. Love recently asked her to continue working with them. Gooden's early work focused on anti-racism and human rights, and she is a member of several anti-racism task forces. She has recommended hiring a consultant who would help the task detail their vision, mission, and scope, expand participation to different stakeholder groups like bus drivers and custodians, and provide training to task force members. When they're participating, It's important that they have some understanding of the issues. We come to issues around racism very differently. For example, race relations work is very different than anti-racism work. Race relations tends to be focused around relating at an individual level, whereas anti-racism work will talk about systems. Having some kind of consensus moving forward is going to be really important because it will affect the success of the work, Gooden said. She added that support from the Board of Education and the superintendent will be critical to the task force's work, particularly when there is pushback. When we think about this work, it's not just about social obligation or moral imperatives. It's a matter of academic and institutional excellence and making sure institutions see diversity and equity embedded in all aspects of the institution: vision and mission, curriculum design, and leadership development, Gooden said. Now, more than ever, universities and K-12 have to commit themselves to making their institutions more inclusive and welcoming a source of education. Love's letter has now been cited as an example statement by Allies for Racial Justice, Portage and Summit Counties, a newly formed multiracial group focused on confronting issues of racial injustice. The group is currently urging districts to address racial injustice through letters like Love's and through school boards' approved resolutions. Our next article is titled Kleitz Gives Update on the Corona Spill by Diane Smith. State Representative Randy Kleitz offered Portage County residents an update on the flurry of coronavirus-related bills that have gone through the state legislature. Kleitz, in a media briefing on COVID-19 response Thursday, spoke about 25 bills related to the virus that have gone through the Ohio House of Representatives. Kleitz, a Democrat from Ravenna, represents the 75th District, which is entirely comprised of Portage County. One of the bills Kleitz spoke about was House Bill 624, proposed by Diane Grendel, a Geauga County Republican whose district includes the northern portion of Portage County. Grendel's bill, which is pending in the state Senate, would change the way coronavirus statistics are reported. Grendel's bill would require each day's figures to include the number of people tested each day, the number of positive test results, and how many tests were negative. The data, the bill states, would be released in the form of a chart, table, or similar format, and would be broken down by zip code. The information would also include the number of people hospitalized each day for the virus, as well as the number of current hospitalizations related to the virus, the age range of deaths, and whether those deaths were attributable solely to COVID-19, and the number of deaths of COVID-19 positive people for whom there were additional complication factors and what those factors are. Kleitz said she argued against the bill because most of the information was in the dashboard. Kleitz also said the zip code requirements would violate patients' privacy. Kleitz also spoke about Senate Bill 410, which distributed CARES Act funding to fund the COVID response in local governments. She said she gets 3 to 5 calls every day from residents who are economically affected because of the virus. County Commissioner Kathleen Clyde said that while the bill is a good start, it doesn't solve the issues that local governments have. Most local governments are hurting because tax revenue is down. It's limited to the expenses that are related to COVID-19, she said, and the need is far greater. It's time to report Portage County crimes by the staff report. Crime reports are a sampling of incidents responded to by local law enforcement agencies, and they are not intended to be all-inclusive. In Brimfield, Minico D. Taylor, 44, of Jasmine Drive in Brimfield, was charged with domestic violence, a 4th-degree felony, after allegedly shoving a woman into a wall on Saturday. Taylor has a previous conviction for domestic violence. He was released from jail on a 10% of $5,000 bond, and a temporary protection order was issued. In Kent, a 28-year-old Kent man was charged with domestic violence, a 1st-degree misdemeanor, and unlawful restraint, a 3rd-degree misdemeanor, after an incident on Lake Street on Sunday. He pleaded not guilty and was released on a $4,000 personal recognizance bond. A temporary protection order was issued. A 20-year-old Amherst woman was charged with purchasing alcohol while underage, a first-degree misdemeanor. After an incident on Friday at Plum Street, she was released on a 10% of a $6,500 bond. A 20-year-old Shaker Heights woman was charged with drinking while underage, a first-degree misdemeanor, after an incident on Friday at Plum Street. She pleaded no contest and was fined $1,000 with $750 suspended and ordered to do 16 hours of community service and be supervised on probation for 2 years. Her driver's license was also suspended for 90 days. In Ravenna Township, Daniel Salisbury Jr., 32, of 5650 South Prospect Street, number 113 in Ravenna, was charged with possession of drugs, a fifth-degree felony, after allegedly possessing items with a trace amount of methamphetamine on them on Friday at 3022 Route 59. He was released on a $25,000 personal recognizance bond. In Randolph Township, Justin Serva, 38, of Industry Road, Randolph Township, was charged with domestic violence, a fourth-degree felony. He has a 2014 conviction for domestic violence in Florida, according to court records. He was placed in jail in lieu of a 10% of a $30,000 bond. In Suffield Township, Andrew Miller, 42, of 3643 Samuel Road in Akron, was charged with burglary, a fourth-degree felony, and menacing by stalking, a fourth-degree felony, after an incident at a Rhodes Avenue apartment on Friday. A warrant was issued for his arrest. A 43-year-old Suffield Township man was charged with domestic violence, a first-degree misdemeanor, after an incident on Friday. He has pleaded not guilty and a temporary protection order was issued. He was released on a $1,000 personal recognizance bond. Well, friends, that concludes the Record Courier for Tuesday, June 24th, 2020. This is Pam asking you to please stay safe until we are back with you again.